Hello everyone, welcome back for video tutorial number 3 for part 2. So for this part, we're going to learn how to use reusability concept in your software development. So in this case, we're talking about the class inheritance whenever your team have already developed a class and you want to reuse it. But in order to reuse it as well, you want to enhance it, extend it, so that it might have access to the original data. But at the same time, they also have their own additional information and additional logic as well. Okay, so just dive into this together. So let's go ahead, guys, open your web browser and then go to the dashpad.dev and then we go from here. So the first thing as usual, then we just add the new endpoint here. So this function is going to be called automatically by the system. Okay, and you can put all of your code right here for your script, and you can also put your additional function or your class definition into the same level right here. So in this case, let's say that we have a class for products to describe a product's information, and just gonna make it simple. So we're gonna have like the product's ID, we're gonna have the product name, and then we are going to have the product price. So therefore, we're going to put double for the price. So let's say that this class is there, okay? And what we need is we're going to need to have the constructor. So let's put the function name for this constructor, which is the name of the class. And then we put the brackets. Inside the bracket, then we have to put required this.id. So we say that we want to initialize this data by the time we create the new object. Okay, so when you create the new object, it's going to look like this. So it's going to be products p equal to new products, and then you can take the ID, let's say like 1, you can take the name equal to p1, and then you can take the price equal to 100, for example. So in this case, by the time you create the new object like this, this value will be assigned for the input of this function. This function we got called automatically. Okay, we call constructor, and it's going to assign the data here, data here, data here for these 3 different information. So therefore, that is why for each information we need to make sure that it's there. So that's why we put required. Okay, so that's the deal. And we say this dot name, so that it's gonna take the information of this object, okay, and then assign this data to this information. Same thing, so over here we say required. It means that the user must supply, during the time you create the object, must supply this input, and then the value here will be assigned to this dot price. So we are talking about assigning this value to the price of this object reference. Okay, all right, so this is usual. So you have the products, right? And then you also have the logic that print out the product information, for example. So we're gonna have the function to print. So how about display? Let's put display, okay, display. And what it does is that it's going to print the product information, including the ID, the name, and the price all together. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put ID, okay, and then since it's going to be directly reference to this inside here, so you can just put ID, and then we're going to put colon, separate by this, and we're going to put $name, colon, and $price, okay. And what you can do is that you can now use p.display to print out this product information. Okay, all right, so that's the output. So it's print out the data for this object instance, the data for the name for this object instance, and also the price value for this object instance. And you can see that in string read aloud operation here, you can refer to this information by using the prefix with the dollar signs. Okay, all right, easy as that. Now imagine that you want to make some enhancement for this class definition. There are many ways of doing this, like creating the new class, totally the new one, add the new information, make changes as you like. That's it. But if you keep doing that, what happens? You're gonna have to maintain all of these, and it's gonna be very difficult. Because for example, if you say, I want to create a new class, sorry, I want to add capability of this class. Let's say I want to add the QTY. You have two choices. Either you come here and then you add the information in the original class, and then you add more information right here for constructor as well. You make changes in terms of the display, but the problem is that this definition might be maintained by another team that doesn't allow you to make changes. So what they can do is that, okay, I can borrow you, you can extend all of this information and use the logic as you like, providing that you have your own definition. That's give birth to the concept of reusability. Okay? The reason they want to keep this one unchanged is because, it is possible that they want to keep this one for older version, or in the future it their team doesn't need to have access to QTY at all or any other information. They say that is good enough for their team. But for the second team, okay, they say, okay, how about this? I create another one, and then instead of calling products, we are gonna call them like maybe pro, let's say stock products, for example. So when we have stock, it means that you have to have additional information like QTY, am I right? And you're gonna have to also add information right here, and you can also make use of this. But by doing this, what happens? It's gonna be very difficult, because if somebody else would like to also reuse this definition, so they're gonna have to copy and do everything by themselves. And as soon as, for example, the original one, they say that, okay, this time I add the new information. It's going to be like color. Therefore, if the team number one does not inform team number two, the team number two doesn't know that, okay, the color should be there as well. See? So that's going to be hectics. That's going to be problematic. And therefore, that is why if you want to make sure that you want to have access to all of the definition, everything that this guy have, and in the future, if this definition got updated, you got the update as well. Plus, you also have your own information. So how do we solve this problem? That gives birth to the concept of what we call reusability, when you can have this previous class as your parent class, and you can have another class that we call the child class. The child class can extend or inherit from the parent one, like yourself, you inherit from your mom, your dad, you got two hands, you got two eyes, you got your 10 fingers, for example. But in terms of additional information on our logic, as you can see, you may have some information that your dad and your mom doesn't have. You also have some logic that look a little bit different from your dad, but you also have the same logic like your dad and your mom. So therefore, whatever they have in terms of the asset, you got it all. Plus, you have something else as well. Okay, so therefore, I'm going to modify this a little bit. So therefore, from here, let's go from scratch. We're gonna say that we're gonna reuse the product class and enhance additional capability by adding one more information, and also, okay, modify the display logic, so that, let's say that you want to add the color. Okay, so in this case, this is what you can do. You can go ahead and say class stock products, and then it's going to be used to extend from the product class, just like that. Okay, and also now what you can do is you can say we are going to create a constructor. So let's go ahead and create a constructor products, stock product right here. And just like the one before, you take all of these parameter as the input. Okay, just keep in mind that now what we want is that we duplicate the child class from the parent class. So when the child class take the input information, they cannot initialize it by yourself. They have to also pass this information to the parent. So therefore, what we want is that in this case, okay, we're gonna pass this to the parent. So in dash to refer to the parent so that the parent can call this function to initialize the data for the child. Then we put colon, okay, and then we put super and parentheses. The super is actually calling the constructor function for you so that you can take the ID is going to be coming from ID, the name is going to be the name, and the price is coming from the price data. So that over here, you can create the new objects like this. So you can create the stock products. And let's call P2 stock products, for example. Okay. And also in this case, so we are going to say that this is going to be instead of this now, because we do not actually, use have, as you can see that in this class, it doesn't have its own information, but this information can have access, right? This child class can have access to this information, but by internally, but over from the parent class. So therefore, in this case, okay, so as you can see, they say ID is not a field in crossing this class. So it means that you cannot directly refer to the ID inside this class because there is no ID name price divided in this class. So you're going to have to refer that one from the parent class. So that is why you can simply use the int, okay, like this. So that now the error is gone. So the value of 1 will be passed as the input when they create this new object. But indirectly, this data will be passed through the calling of the constructor of the parent one. So that value will be here. So number 1 will be passed so that the value here will be assigned by this constructor of the parent class. So same thing for the name. So we're gonna just remove this and we put the string, okay, and for the price as well, then that's going to be double price. All right, now what I want is that now I'm going to display both of this together, so you can see that it's going to just print out the same information, but this time let's change. This is number 2, this is number 2, and the price is a little bit different as well. So I mean, if you happen to just have it this way, then why do you bother yourself, right? Trying to create a new definition. But as I said, because we want to duplicate the parent behavior first, okay, first we say child class extend from the parent class, and then for the constructor, it just take the input, but it does not initialize by itself, but it's rely on the constructor of the parent class to initialize the data for itself. So therefore, that is why we have to refer to the constructor of the parent class and take the data, take this data, and then pass this data so that the parent can call the constructor class to initialize the data inside itself for you. So that's why the child objects can have access to this information. Now, in addition to this, as I said, that is why now what you can do is that, unlike the parent, you can enhance additional capability so that it doesn't affect the original definition. So therefore, over here, you can say that I want to implement the information of the quantity right here. And that's why you also take an input. But since this data is belong to this class, so you can say required as well. So let me put this into another line right here. So it's going to be required. And we can say that one, the data will be assigned to this information. So we say QTY. Okay. So as you can see, what happened? So this one, if you just take 3 information here, it's going to be used to initialize by the constructor of the parent class. But what about this information? So that is why you can now take another information and then you can put the color. Let's say white. Okay. All right. And then the QTY int is there. All right. So this is going to be required And then this dot qty, what did it say? The name parameter qty is required, but there is no corresponding argument. Try adding required argument. Okay, so this is the stock products. I already added the color. Oh, sorry, qty, not color. Sorry about this. So it's gonna be like, let's say you take 10 of this, and here we go. Now, when you print it out, the only downside is that still, well, it's just output the same information, but we know now that our class definition also have additional information, which is qty. So what you can do is that you can enhance this capability. So when we say enhance this capability or define the new behavior of this one in OOP, then we say that we want to override. Okay, override. I think that's gonna be just maybe 2 of this. Mean we just override the behavior, and then you can just copy this one down here. All right, and then you can just add one more information, which is the price. So you can say, I'm sorry, the QTY. So now, unlike the previous one, then this display logic also contain the part to display QTY as well, and that QTY can be directly accessed from this information. And as you can see, it doesn't matter now that even though this part is not belong to this definition, but because this class inherited or extend from the parent, so the child definition here can have access to ID, name, and price from the parent class automatically. Okay, so let's rerun this, and you can see by yourself that it's also now show another information. So this way, it allows us to keep original contents like that, and at the same time you are able to get all this information from the child class, and the child class itself also have capability to add more information and modify the original logic as well. Okay, so in the next video tutorial we will consider another use case so that you can see and think about how do we reuse the class so that we can create the new UI. So imagine that the Google team has already created so many UI components. You just have to reuse it and modify the behavior and then compose those kinds of things together as your UI context. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.